trust everything we see? Can we know anything for certain? Plato's The Allegory of the Cave concludes that we can't. Nietsche also said that truths are illusions which we have forgotten are illusions. So Nietsche also concludes that we cannot trust everything we see. And so does Ian McEwan's Atonement. We are led to believe that Briony commits a crime. But what if there's a reality in the novel where no crime was committed at all? McEwan himself said that Atonement examines the relationship between what is imagined and what is true. The Philosophy of Inception by Kyle Johnson tackles this idea really well.
Right? You may think that inception is impossible. In fact, they even talk about that in the movie, that it's impossible to get into someone's mind and implant an idea in there and make them think that it was their own idea. But that's just what movies do. That's all movies do. That's all they do. But that's one big thing that they do, is they incept ideas into us.
Just like an idea was planted into Fisher or Cobb's mind, the author, who we learn in the end is Briony, is doing exactly the same thing to the reader. She could write the scene 3 times over from 3 points of view. In the video, Johnson initially tells his audience to question everything they see, otherwise we risk deceiving ourselves. At the end of the novel, Briony tells the readers,
Robbie Turner died of septicemia at Bray Dunes on June 1st, 1940, the last day of the evacuation. And I was never able to put things right with my sister Cecilia, because she was killed on the 15th of October, 1940, by the bomb that destroyed the gas and water mains above Balham Tube Station. My sister and Robbie were never able to have the time together they both so longed for and deserved.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
So essentially, Briony hurt us and she lied to us too? Way to go, Briony. But did she? This is a metafiction after all, and as a result, we could also argue that this was how Briony, or McEwan, wanted us to feel as we were reading it. Not to mention that McEwan created Briony as an unreliable narrator. Again, in London 1999, she tells the readers that due to her diagnosis of vascular dementia, her brain, her mind is closing down. The days of the week, the events of the morning, or even 10 minutes ago will be beyond her reach. Considering the fact that she has been writing this for 59 years, and as humans our memories decay over time, we can never be sure which version is the correct version. So, let's look at the chapter in which she commits her crime, and how this ties into her unreliableness. Briony had to tell the police what she saw. In order to make an accurate identification, the eyewitness, which is Briony, must observe or perceive the offender's face correctly, retain that complete perception without distortion in memory, and retrieve a faithful version of the remembered image when called upon to identify a suspect at some later time. If we look at the following factors, we can tell that this is very difficult. There are 7 factors I will explore. The first is perceptual selectivity, in which the inherent limitations of the human brain are the major source of inaccuracy in perception. Second on the list is time perception. Time is also perceived to pass more slowly when the observer is caught in an anxiety-producing situation. The desire to escape makes it seem as if the unpleasant event is lasting longer than it actually is. Third, we have poor observation conditions. In addition to perceptual inaccuracies caused by the brain's inherent limitations, many identification errors are due to the circumstances of the observation. Briony even admits that, however close they were, it was not possible to read expressions. The dark disk of Lola's face showed nothing at all. So Briony couldn't even see anybody. She had no way of knowing Robbie committed the crime. Fourth is stressful situation. Psychological research demonstrates that perceptual abilities actually decrease significantly when the observer is in a fearful or anxiety-provoking situation. Fifth is expectancy. Because the human mind can process only a small portion of what is visible at any given time, it develops the ability to form conclusions about what has been perceived based on the limited amounts of sensory information. Sixth, we have personal needs and biases. witnesses tend to see what they want to see. Much of what Briony experiences was influenced by the first time she saw Cecilia and Robbie together in the fountain, followed by the letter Robbie hands Briony, which allows Briony to label Robbie as a sex maniac, and the library scene seals everything in place. Finally, mood affects memory. Emotions have an impact on episodic memories. They dictate how we interpret and remember certain moments. How you feel when you make an episodic memory will determine how you can access that memory later. The events and the characters included in Briony, both as the character and as the revealed author of the novel, have been altered by these factors to suit the plot of the author Briony's attempt to achieve atonement. It can thus be claimed that she has drawn conclusions, summarized and concluded what must have happened, based on her memory as well as what she has been informed of later on. Briony has attempted to project herself into the thoughts and feelings of her character, an act that is crucial to her search for forgiveness. In creating a fictionalized replica of her life and the people in it, the author Briony is once again able to retake the position of command. Briony is thus the creator of the fictionalized world, and thus she is the one in charge of what it is to happen. She argues that, in a story, you only had to wish, you only had to write it down, and you could have the world being under no obligation to the truth. Like God, Briony has absolute power as author of deciding outcomes. She claims the story is finished only when all fates are resolved and the whole matter sealed off at both ends, which the reunion of the lovers provides. She even explicitly states that if the war were to keep Robbie and Cecilia permanently estranged, the only solution would be for the past to never to have happened, and thus when this becomes the outcome, she erases their deaths. There can be, since she technically revised the past, and if we consider multiple realities, then that means that there is a reality that exists in which the crime never happened, and as a result of that, she never had to atone. Revising the past is literally changing the past to your ideal outcome. To change the past is considered an impossibility. However, the past is just a subjective interpretation of previous events, meaning that it's not fixed. Hear me out. Cornelis van Putten, in Changing the Past, Retrocausality and Narrative Construction, brings up a quote which reads, "It is generally accepted that the future is open, and that we in part created by intervening. When applied to the past, however, the idea is controversial, for the past is considered to be fixed, not something that can be created or determined even in part. But we have to remember that it's not the real Robbie and Cecilia who are present within the pages of Briony's Atonement, but character versions of the two, drawn from Briony's memory. Thus, the events and the characters included in Briony, both as a character and as the revealed author of the novel, have been altered by surrounding factors to suit the plot of the author Briony's attempt to achieve atonement. Briony will forever be trapped in a world in which the differences between fiction and reality are hardly noticeable. She manages to blur the line between fiction and reality in her mind almost completely. She's convincing herself that her fictionalization of the events is the true account of what happened. She appears to claim that the power of the written word is strong enough to change certain elements of the past, or how it's remembered. But she also raises an important point when she asks, how can a novelist achieve atonement when, with her absolute power of deciding outcomes, she is also God? If she thinks she's God, who is she to atone to? Why would God himself ever need to atone? In London 1999, she tells the readers that the lovers survive and flourish. Meaning, if there was no London 1999, we would have just accepted the alternative ending. In short, yeah, our memories are based off a number of different factors, and the way we interpret them always changes.